Sabre. It is a very dynamic weapon in fencing because unlike foil and epee, you can score a touch with the weapon both by thrusting with the point or cutting with the edge of the blade. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at the Sabre, we're going to learn a few of the basics, and then we're going to jump in and explore how we can score touches from varying distances from different approaches. Let's get started. The first thing we need to do before we get started with our exercises is we need to know how to stand. The on-guard position in Sabre is a little different than what you would encounter in foil and epee. There are three principal positions that you can take up in the on-guard position. The first one is going to be a neutral position. This is usually the best fit for someone who's first learning how to fence in this weapon. And then there are the two specialty positions. The first one is the aggressive, and this is more of a forward-leaning action, and then the defensive, which is the reverse, more of a withdrawn, leaning back action. We're going to start looking at the neutral position first, and then we're going to look at the aggressive and the passive defensive one. Let's get started. The neutral position is going to see you sitting directly in the middle of your posture. You'll notice that the feet are a little bit closer together. It's more of a shallow on guard, but you bend your knees a little deeper than you would normally in this position. This allows you to lower your center of gravity. It's very important that you keep your center of body upright. You don't want to be slouching or leaning in one direction or the other. Your non-weapon hand is going to sit right behind your back shoulder, just so it's kind of leaning against your back leg. And your front arm, the weapon arm, is going to be a right angle. That means the arm drops down till it reaches your forearm and then it shoots out to the side. You're going to be holding the weapon up vertically, ever so slightly tilting forward. This is important. It allows you to strike your opponent a little bit faster. The aggressive posture sees you holding that same on-guard position, same distance, but leaning forward. You'll notice that my forward knee is just above going beyond my front toe. My arms are in the same position. The blade is tilting forward just a little bit more because when you are in an aggressive position, it means you intend to attack. So you want your weapon a little bit more forward. The defensive position is just the reverse of the offensive, the aggressive attack, and that is where you're leaning back. So most of your weight is on your back leg, back foot, and you'll notice that my front knee is just above or behind my front ankle. My arm still remains in the same position, and remember, keep your upper body upright. You don't want to be slouching. One final thing to talk about before we jump into our exercises, and that's how you hold the weapon. In your grip, you want to make sure that your hand is down at the lower base, so that means your pinky finger is resting against the lower guard. Your thumb is going to ride up against it, so it's actually pushing the weapon. This is important for when you attack because you have to drive the tip down, and it's really your thumb that's doing that pushing as you're dipping your wrist. So all fingers low on the guard, thumb up high. And when you hold it, you want to twist your wrist just a little bit so it's facing out. This is to protect any glancing attacks to your arm using the guard. Now that we know our on-guard positions, let's now go into how to strike the target and where. Now, you want to be standing approximately a meter and a half away from your target. And what we're going to be doing is focusing on the head and the flanks. So the head, that's going to be Quint. This here, this side of the flank, this is Tierce, and this is Quart. Now, for those of you who don't know those names, Quint is 5, Tierce is 3, and Quart is 4. We won't be focusing much on Quart just because I don't have the space to actually show you. Now, with where on the blade you can be making these touches, it's from the tip down to about the first third of the blade. Any deeper and it's not going to be a very good touch. It can also be invalidated by a referee. So from this position, we're going to want to make sure we can extend our arm in a direct line. That means you also have to turn your wrist forward. It starts facing out, but as you extend your arm, you twist it forward and drive the blade down. Once you make the hit, you return back to on guard. Now when you hit, you don't need to stick the blade. That means there's no pressure required. Unlike foil and epee, where you have a barrel, a tip to compress, we don't have that in Sabre. You want to make the hit and let the blade bounce off. This allows you to return back to en garde for a second intention, second action, or it allows you to make repeated hits, just like that. Now you can do the exact same thing to tierce and quart. Extend the arm and turn the wrist forward, just like that. Now, in the attack, it's very important that in any action, your arm is leading that action. The arm extends while the wrist is moving forward. Your thumb drives the point down. It needs to happen at the same time. If you're extending your arm and the blade is still upright, this is not an effective attack. If, however, you drive the point down, so it's threatening the target, but your arm is still bent, this too is not an effective attack. It has to be combined, just like that. Now that we know how to make the attacks, let's jump into our first exercise. For the first exercise, we're going to be focusing on quint and tierce. And what it is you're going to be striking the target while extending your arm and pulling it back. Repeated touches. So I'll do an example. You're going to hit and return back. You're hitting only with the tip and forward and back. Just like that. And you want to repeat this for 30 seconds, and then you're going to start the exact same action to tierce. Right here, returning back, and forward, and back. So you're hitting with the length of the blade, and now you're hitting with the tip and the length. Now you're not pulling your arm out to the side like this, you're actually withdrawing it directly to your own flank. Just like that. If you're pulling it out like this, you're cutting across the entirety of the torso. You don't want that. So again, this exercise, you're going to attack quint. Do this for 30 seconds, return back to en garde, and then you're going to do the exact same thing to tierce. And repeat for 30 seconds. For our second exercise, I want you to take one step back, and what we're going to be doing is a step-in attack. Again, focusing on quint and tierce. When you step in, the arm leads the action. You want to be hitting before your front foot lands. And then when you step back, I want you to make 2 more hits and return back to en garde. Same thing for tierce, and then back to en garde. Repeat these actions interchangeably. Attack the head first, that's quint, and then attack tierce. Repeat this for 30 seconds. For our third exercise, you're going to take a step back and we're going to do the lunge. Now, for the lunge, same thing for the step in. The arm leads the action and you have to hit before your front foot lands. If your front foot lands first, the attack is incomplete. Unsuccessful. So make sure the arm's extension, the threatening of the target is continuous in the action, and that you hit just before your foot lands. I'll do it in slow style first so you can see what that's like. You extend your arm, you hit, and you return back to en garde. Now, what we're going to be doing for this exercise is we're going to make a lunge to quint, return back to en garde, and then make a lunge to tierce. And do this for 30 seconds. It's going to look a little bit like this. For our fourth and final exercise for the attack, we are going to do an advanced lunge. So you have to take another step back. What you're going to do is you're going to take that step and lunge. Now, in this case, I want your arm extending with the step. It should be fully extended when you kick off for the lunge. So in slow motion, you're going to make that action. Recover back to your en garde. Okay? Now, you're going to do this to quint and tierce. Rotating. First attack quint, then you attack tierce. For 30 seconds. Is a little problem in finding. I think it's a vacuum cleaner. Let's try it again. Maybe a drill. Of the blade, though it's more about the forward third. It's a bug. Next two are going to be the flank to either side. This is quart, tierce. Ah, I messed it up.